So Caltrans has this huge, potentially life-saving plan on the table for Highway 49 in Nevada County. It's a project that was born directly from the very real threat of wildfire. And, it could completely change how an entire community gets to safety during a disaster. So in this explainer, we're going to break down their official environmental report to see exactly what they're planning, why it's so important, and what it all means for you.
Let's just start with one single number, 27,124. That is the estimated number of cars that would pour onto Highway 49 in a major evacuation. And look, this isn't just some wild guess. It's the hard number that first responders are looking at, the kind of chaos they're trying to prevent. It's the whole reason this project even exists.
And this is the road we're talking about. For thousands and thousands of people in places like Alta Sierra, Wolf, and Higgins Corner, this is way more than just a highway. In a firestorm, it is literally their only way out. It's the single artery that has to carry an entire region to safety, and as it stands right now, it's a very dangerous bottleneck.
Okay, so here's how we're going to walk through all of this. First, we're going to look at the core problem, that bottleneck. Then we'll dive right into what Caltrans wants to do about it. After that, we have to talk about the environmental side of things, the trade-offs. Then we'll get to the official verdict from their study.
All right, so let's start with the bottleneck itself. It's so important to understand that this project isn't about making your morning commute a little easier. Nope. This is about preventing an absolute catastrophe when a fire is bearing down.
And believe me, this isn't some far-off what-if scenario. The Jones fire back in 2020, the River fire just a year after that, these were terrifying dress rehearsals for the kind of disaster this project wants to prevent. Thousands of people fled for their lives on this exact highway. And today, the area is officially a very high fire hazard severity zone. So the question really isn't if another major fire is going to happen, it's when.
And here's the heart of the problem. Right now, SR 49 is just 2 lanes. The shoulders, they're barely 2 to 4 feet wide. I mean, you couldn't even safely ride a bike on them, let alone pull over a broken down car. So imagine trying to get fire engines in while thousands of residents are desperately trying to get out. It's a trap.
All right, so how exactly does Caltrans plan on fixing this trap? Well, the solution is a complete and total overhaul of a critical 7.7-mile stretch of the highway. And the plan is a big one. Those tiny shoulders would be widened to a full 8 to 12 feet. A continuous center turn lane would be added, and this, right here, is a game changer. Because in an emergency, that lane can be used to reverse traffic, basically turning the whole highway into a one-way escape route. They're also making bridges bigger, upgrading guardrails, and improving drainage to make the whole area more resilient to fire.
So this map here shows you the whole 7.7-mile stretch we're talking about. And a perfect example of a bottleneck they're targeting is the current bridge over South Wolf Creek. The plan is to widen this structure in a big way, getting rid of a major choke point for everybody trying to get out and for every emergency vehicle trying to get in.
Right, but look, you can't do a project this big without leaving some kind of footprint on the environment. And that brings us to the trade-offs. By law, Caltrans had to do a deep dive into what this massive project would mean for the local ecosystem. And that whole review process is all governed by a law called the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA. You can kind of think of it as the state's environmental rule book. It basically forces agencies like Caltrans to look before they leap. They have to identify every single potential impact and then tell the public exactly how they plan to deal with it. This entire report we're talking about today, it's a CEQA document. So this table, this really cuts through hundreds of pages of technical jargon. The report found no impact on things like agriculture and cultural sites. It found less than significant impacts on things like air quality and noise. But you see that bottom row? That's the one to watch. The one area where the project could have a major impact is on biological resources. We're talking wetlands, creek habitats, and that means it needs a fix.
So, after all that, what's the bottom line? Given that one area of concern, what did the study actually conclude? Well, the verdict has a very official kind of clunky name, a proposed mitigated negative declaration. I know, it sounds complicated, but let's just break it down. Negative declaration sounds bad, but it's actually good news. It means Caltrans is confident the project won't cause any unavoidable, major environmental damage. And that word, mitigated, that's the most important one. It means for every single potential problem they found, they have a real, legally binding plan to fix it or offset it.
So that whole mitigation plan we just talked about, it really all comes down to one thing: fixing the project's impact on the local ecosystem. This was the main hurdle the project had to clear, and the report lays out exactly how they plan to do it.
And this quote right from the report shows you what that mitigation actually looks like. Caltrans is legally required to compensate for any permanent damage to aquatic resources. So what does that actually mean? It usually means they have to protect or restore a similar habitat somewhere else to make up for what's lost. It's how they plan to bring the project's impact back down to a level that's considered less than significant.
So, at the end of the day, we're left with this really big question. The need to keep people safe is just undeniable, but so are the impacts to the environment. When a project to save human lives also means permanently changing the natural landscape, how do we, as a community, make sure we strike the right balance? That's really the conversation this whole report opens up, and it's a conversation we all need to be a part of.